Hi, lovelies. Welcome to This or Something Greater. I'm really excited for today. It feels like a big day for me because I feel like I'm starting to take responsibility for my life and actually build a life that I love. Not a perfect life, not someone else's life, my life. And it's feels scary, but it's also super exciting. If you're new here, let me explain and give a little bit of context into this channel and why it exists. I made this channel because I hate my life. I don't say that to be dramatic. I honestly mean it. When I look at the different parts and aspects of my life, my relationship, my confidence, my sense of purpose, there's not really an area that I feel fulfilled in. For a long time, I was really just waiting for the motivation to show up, waiting to feel magically confident, waiting for life to just start being good. I just kept thinking that I would wake up one day and suddenly love myself, suddenly feel fulfilled, suddenly feel content and happy. That the connections I've wanted would just arrive, that the connections I desired would fall into place, but they haven't come. I've realized that life isn't going to change on its own. My life isn't going to change on its own. Self-love doesn't arrive fully formed, and healing doesn't just happen as time passes. Connection doesn't just form by itself. So I made the decision to stop waiting, and I started asking myself better questions and really trying to get to what would my life look like if I started making decisions from love, not for fear, not from guilt or shame, but love. What would change if escape wasn't my motivation factor? If I wasn't just trying to survive, but actually build a life that I could thrive in? That's where this all starts. This is just kind of me documenting my journey, asking myself these questions and what I learn along the way. I like to start every video with an intention, and in my last video, I talked about how powerful intentions are and the difference between intentions and expectations and how to turn an expectation into an intention. The intention I have for this video is to view desires through a lens of love. What happens if I view my desires through a lens of love? This is kind of asking these questions of, when I'm wanting something, is that desire kind to myself? Am I being kind to myself through that desire? Or am I creating more suffering? What is that desire reflecting in me? And going towards that desire, is that going towards peace and love or something else? Wherever you are right now, let's take a deep breath and let the tension settle in. I've been using a very interesting analogy and metaphor that has really worked for me in a way to think about life and reframe a lot of the habits I have of comparing myself to other people or getting down on myself or judging myself for not achieving certain goals and things like that. So I've started viewing my life as a piece of art, and I'm the artist. It removes a lot of pressure having this kind of small shift because I tend to be a really creative person, and there's a lot of grace that I allow myself through the creative process. I wouldn't rush a painting. I would allow it to unfold naturally as it comes. I wouldn't rush a story, and there's something beautiful about that. And it's kind of like I would never throw away a half-finished piece. I would never compare someone's artwork to another, my artwork to another, because it is mine. I think that analogy is very interesting because there's a lot of grace that I realize that I allow myself through creative means and creating art that obviously, isn't always perfect, but it gives a really broader sense of what would happen if I applied this to my own life and recognize that the beauty is in the process, the time it takes, the revisions it takes to build something beautiful. There's beauty in the messiness that comes with creation. And no matter what my canvas looks like, even if it's small or ripped or stained, I can still make art. I can still make it beautiful. I have the control to turn it into something I am proud of. And at the end of the day, it is my piece of art. I love it and it is beautiful. That is the most important part. I think it's a really important perspective that allows me to recognize this is my life and I get to decide what that means for myself. So I want to go back to the beginning of the video where I said I hate my life. It's taken me a really long time, even though I may have felt that way. It's taken me a really long time to be able to say those words out loud without judgment, without blame, without automatically feeling bad of not being where I want to be and really not feeling great about different aspects of my life. I was told growing up that hate is such a strong word. It's too strong of a word almost, that you can't hate things, that hate is usually some type of fear, and that I was just angry or sad and upset. I'm not necessarily denying that a lot of times that feeling of hate, there are other emotions underneath, but I do think there is something so powerful about having such a strong feeling that signals that something is wrong. I think that strong feeling is so important because it allowed me to pause. It allowed me to take a step back and look closer and say, something's missing. So when I say I hate my life, I really mean it. Not because I'm ungrateful for what I have, but because I recognize that there's something deeper that is asking for attention. I don't think naming that feeling negates the layers underneath. Naming that feeling of despise and hate and just dissatisfaction is so important because that is what prompted me to realize something is wrong. It is almost a gift in a way to have such raw emotion attached to it. No change really happens in contentment. If I didn't have these strong feelings, I wouldn't be able to take that pause and recognize what was actually happening and open up the doors to navigating all of the other emotions, all of the other fears, worries, desires that were giving the strong emotion of hate at the beginning. To be honest, I felt this way, but I kept pushing it down. It wasn't something where it just happened overnight, but there was a specific exercise that I did that kind of made me realize a lot of these negative feelings that I was having towards my life and where I was weren't something that I could ignore anymore. So continuing with the art analogy, it's kind of like stepping back and looking at your painting and realizing you don't like what you've created. So I took a step back and I was like, wait, this is not the painting I envisioned. I don't like this brushstroke over here, or I want it to be a little bit different. This is not working. It's taken a really long time to say this is not working and not having hate towards myself because this is my first time living. This is everyone's first time living. I'm learning as I go. I'm creating as I go. And it's great to take a step back and saying, this is not working. I need to try something new. It's especially tough as I feel like I've been living on autopilot a lot, just doing what needs to be done, not really checking in with myself. I had those feelings, but they weren't enough to really push me out. There was something that I needed to recognize in myself. So the exercise that kind of woke me up and realized how unfulfilled I was in my life was a end of the year reflection where you have a circle that is split into 8 different sections, and in each section there is a aspect of your life. And so I believe the aspects are your romantic, your relationships, your living environment, your spiritual growth, your career, your finances, health and fitness, fun and recreation, and friends and family. Each of the 8 sectors, you rate how fulfilled you are. You would rate from 1 to 10 how fulfilled you are with your living environment, how fulfilled you are with your romantic relationships, how fulfilled you are with your career, your finances, and then you keep going. When I finished, I realized that not one category I would rate above a 5. Not one category I was even minimally fulfilled in. I then wrote down what it would look like to have a 10 in each category. What would it look like for me to have a 10 in career? What would it look like for me to have a 10 in finances? That's kind of when it hit me that I didn't like the painting I was painting. I really encourage you, if you're open to it, to try this exercise yourself. Just take a time to really look at these different categories and see how you feel in them. Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Check in. And you can do this, every quarter, every half year, every year, however often you want to do it. But it gives a really good way to really note, okay, I'm checking in with myself. How happy am I? Am I fulfilled in certain things? How does this fulfillment change? What does it look like from year to year? For me, it was super uncomfortable, but it was definitely extremely clarifying. I needed to realize that I didn't like where I was in order to choose something different. And after I did that exercise, I couldn't unsee it. I almost had proof, not necessarily just the feeling, that the life I was living didn't feel good to me. It gave me so much clarity because once I stopped realizing, okay, I don't like my life the way it is, I kind of stopped blaming myself and stopped asking what's wrong with me? Why am I not happy? And asked, okay, what do I have to do to make this better? Obviously, I don't love the painting, so how do I paint a new one? It wasn't like trying to fix my life out of panic or trying to do all of this new work out of a place of shame. It was genuinely wanting to feel a love and peace and happiness towards life. And just wanting to try every day to bring more joy and light into my life in a way that felt super authentic, personal to me, and loving. I think that's kind of where this metaphor or analogy of looking at my life the same way as I would approach art. Instead of trying to make my life as impressive or productive as possible, trying to make it as beautiful and as authentic to me as possible. It's almost as if my life is the painting of my spirit. Like, what would that look like if I could just allow my essence to create? That's where my life list came from. So one thing you need to know about me is I love lists. I have a list for everything. I write down a list in all my notes app of, stores I want to go to, my grocery list, funny quotes. I love lists. And so when I was trying to recognize what it would look like to have a life created by my authentic essence, who I am, I kind of just started making a list. I started writing things down that I want in life, things that I wanted to try, things that I wanted to push myself in. Anything. I wouldn't even let myself say, oh no, that's not possible. I would write it down. They could be big things, small things, emotional things. And I worked on it for about a month. And honestly, to this day, I'm still adding to it. It's not like there's a final version. There's no, I'm done. This is it. It's ongoing. It's something that every day I wake up and I'm like, this is it. This is inspiration. This is coming from a deeper part of me. And you don't have to make a list like I did if you're not a list fanatic. It can be anything. Some people view things, more visually. So a vision board, or you could just journal about it, write it down, flow, stream of consciousness. There are really no rules. Create a Pinterest board. I don't know. And the only thing that really matters is to have that desire and feeling of love. Allow it to come from an internal place, your essence. Tap into that emotional based feeling of this is what lights the fire. This is what allows me to burn internally. This is not something that needs to be fear-based or obligation-based. This is not for anyone. This is for you. And it doesn't have to be an obligation to yourself. If you have your whole life gone one path, you have the permission to change, to try something new. This is not built around what you think you should want. And if you find guilt, shame, or pressure showing up while you are writing something down, really pause and ask yourself, do I want this? Or do I feel like I need it? What am I trying to avoid feeling by wanting this? Just question. Feel where these things are coming from. Do they give you life? Do they make you feel light, or do they weigh you down? I think for me, an example of one of the hardest areas for me when I was making this list was having to do with my body and my body image. For so long, my relationship with my body has been so painful for me, and I knew I wanted to incorporate something on the list that allowed me freedom from that. And I wanted to write things like, I want to be a certain size, or I want to lose weight. It's so easy, to give into those things, because kind of like the intention versus expectation, that expectation is with those things will come that release of whatever suffering I am feeling in this moment. But I also knew that those were not framed in a loving light. And so I really wanted to think, instead of I want to change my body so I can love myself, I wanted to think more, I want to love myself so I can change my relationship with my body. How do I do that? Writing things like I want a happy and healthy relationship with food. I want to feel pride in my body. I want to explore how I can nurture myself, not punish myself. And I think that is, so beautiful. Those make me feel light and not weighed down, because love that comes after change isn't really love, but love that comes before change is extremely healing. I can love myself through change, and I can start loving myself now. I don't have to wait to be a smaller size. I don't have to wait to be something. That love I deserve right now. And talking about deserving, I also realized as I was making this list that a lot of times I would pause because I felt like I would want something, but I may not deserve it. I want to be able to look at my list and say, I deserve what's here. I can do and get what's here. And I really don't believe it yet. I think this belief grows as I start checking things off my list, because some of those things are a little bit crazy. And, I'll get into it and share, because I think it'll be really fun to dive into different aspects of my list and go through building that life. But trust me, some things still feel so impossible. Like, I guess one example of something on my list is I want to fall head over heels deep in love. And for me, that feels extremely scary to say, because I've never been in a relationship before. And I'm 25 years old, never been in a relationship before. And that makes me feel extremely behind, like something's wrong with me. And that fear creeps in. I've been on this planet for 25 years, it hasn't happened. What if it never does? What if it doesn't happen? What if I'm not enough? And then I go looking for the proof that that's wrong. And I download a dating app, or I go out expecting something different, expecting something to make me feel better. And I search for that validation and I don't get what I'm looking for. And then I end up feeling worse. And it's the cycle. And I recognize that fear-based actions cannot lead to love-based outcomes. It's just not how it works. So now I really want to try something different. I want to try loving myself towards things, releasing timelines, which is extremely difficult for me because I'm the most impatient person. I want things happening now, and that's not how it is. I have to love the journey and not really focus on the outcome. Letting possibilities breathe, even when I don't fully believe that I can yet, doing it anyway. And it's not this idea of just telling myself that, oh, I can do it. It's more of recognizing that the belief that I can't, that is not a belief out of fact, that is a belief that is out of fear. I am trying to prove myself through love that that belief is not true, that I can. And someday I will. I'm excited to start checking things off of my list and, go slow, let my life evolve. This is a masterpiece, let it change. There's no finish line. It's that kind of idea. It's like trying to rush through life. What are you rushing towards? The end of life is just death. So exploring life as we live it and not rushing through it is a way to just be in every moment. There's no checklist. It's creation, not a competition. And that is something that's so important for me to tell myself and realize. There's no competition in this creation. It is just creation. It's kind of like, I've never played this game, so I don't know why this analogy is coming. It's kind of like Minecraft. Maybe it's not like Minecraft, but from what I know, it's just like you can go and just create. You have this whole world where you can build. That's it. There's no competition. There's nothing with it. It's just building. I've never played it, so I don't know why I think I thought of it, but that's kind of what I'm looking. Until the next video, my lovelies, I hope you allow love and joy into your life, and I wish you this or something greater. Bye.